Hey Joshua.
Hello.
Let's get this show on the road. We're 1 week in.
1 week in.
1 week into a Trump presidency.
Oh,
I'm still on the run. Josh has me hiding in his attic. Hopefully they won't catch me.
I'm gonna sell you out
Joshua, don't do that.
for money.
Anyways, hello people out there. This is the first real episode of the What If podcast, brought to you by SoundCloud. This is my lifelong best friend here,
We have sponsors.
Josh. Hopefully we'll have sponsors. Get that SoundCloud money later.
SoundCloud.
Say hi to the internet, Josh.
Hello.
So yeah, Josh, what are you up to lately, man? What's been going on with you?
Nothing special.
Really, nothing special. What'd you do this weekend?
We had the wings.
We had hot wings.
Yeah.
Hot wings that weren't very hot.
Man, fuck you. They were hot.
Those hot wings.
Just because you're immune.
Look, I may be African, and that might be the reason why some things aren't as hot as other things are, but come on.
Because those things were fucking hot.
Were they that hot, Joshua?
I put ghost peppers in them.
Were they? I thought you...
No, I put ghost peppers
Oh,
in mine.
you didn't use the chemical stuff.
No, I didn't use extracts, but I put ghost peppers in it.
I see. Okay.
That's like supposed to be like 1 million Scoville or some craziness.
It's a
like
Scoville. Like, how hot is a Scoville?
I don't know how hot an actual Scoville is, but it's like jalapenos are supposed to be around like 10,000 or something like that. There's a whole scale of them.
So if jalapenos are 10,000, ghost peppers are how much?
1 million.
Oh.
Like there's a whole scale of them.
Uh-huh.
And before the Carolina Reaper, the ghost pepper was number one.
I see.
And now the Reaper's number one.
Oh, the Reaper's number one?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you put in the thing?
No, I put it in the former number one.
Oh, the former of the ghost peppers.
So the number twos now.
Okay. Gotcha.
The Reaper, I think, is at like 2 million. And the ghost peppers are at 1.
Okay.
So that's what I put in was the 1 millions.
Huh.
But they're like way above like everything else.
Still isn't that hot. It's not hot.
Again, I'm immune.
You overreacted.
I overreacted. It's not like I was like chugging milk or anything.
Jared was. His cousin Jared was
No,
definitely.
he wasn't.
He was chugging milk.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah.
You are a liar.
You can't prove that.
I can.
You can't prove that.
You are a liar and a scoundrel.
Well, Joshua, I want to be the first and foremost one to thank you for coming on to my podcast and being the other voice here. Thank you.
The other voice.
Thank you, Joshua. Thank you. So, anywho, this episode of the What If podcast, because of, actually, I thought it would be a great idea and great timing to, introduce something that might be, I wouldn't say relevant, but would be kind of interesting to think about because of our election last week. As we all know by now, our overlord, President-elect Trump, has been elected by...
Is he president-elect when he's elected?
Yeah, that's what they called him. They called him
He's just the president.
No, he's not the president right now. President
Semantics.
Obama was the president until, I think, January 21st.
Semantics.
And then after that, then he will be sworn into office. It will be a big inauguration thing. It will be on the news and everything in January. And then Donald Trump will be the actual president. So Donald Trump can't really do anything right now.
Says you.
Well, okay, sure. But yeah, so that's happening. So, after everyone is freaked out, like the day of and the week afterwards, both sides are freaked out to the point where it sounds like it was a Super Bowl competition and a team won. That's how a lot of people feel. And it's kind of sad because it's like, yeah, your team won, and then usually when your team wins, you usually don't get anything afterwards except you have to spend money. This one could affect millions, if not billions. The rest of the world, Joshua.
Yeah, I know what the rest of the world is.
Do you? Because the look on your face was,
I think you're putting a little bit too much on what the president actually does.
I didn't say the president.
Like
I said this election. I didn't say the president. I said this election.
Like, it'll affect millions. It's probably going to be more of the same old shit that we've had for the last 20 years.
Just like the other elections affected millions, this one will affect... I'm not saying, like, bad or good, but it will affect people. It's already affected people now, Joshua. But it's affected them on the inside. Yeah. Anyways, well, because of, the last election, everyone freaking out and everything like that, I thought this week's what-if scenario could be a bit interesting. You know how, everyone's talking about, the white man came from Europe and they to the Indians and they killed all the Indians with blankets and corn, or not corn, but blankets and disease and all that. And then they went to Africa and they got the slaves and they got the whole slave trade and all that other stuff, right? Not me personally, my family, I'm second generation, so but a lot of African Americans, black folks here, their ancestors were, that's how they brought over. So I thought to myself, what if Europe never colonized Africa? So, back in Europe, we have something they call the Dark Ages, right? The Dark Ages from like the 1100s all the way to like the 1500s, where Europe was just a big old shit show from the 6th century to the 13th century. It was going through stagnation. Europe was going through strife. There was a lot of, rats biting people and fleas and stuff, and everyone's dying. And they got those masks, those beat nose masks, those plague masks. Were pretty fun. Well, anyways, the exact opposite was actually happening in Africa. Africa at that time was going through a renaissance. To the point that there were 6 medieval African kingdoms. Now, I'm getting a lot of my sources from Atlanta Black Star. So there's just a little blurb about these 6 kingdoms. There was the Axum Kingdom, right? It was called the Axum Empire. And at its height, it was one of the 4 superpowers in the world, along with Persia, Rome, and the Chinese. So yeah, they're a big dick in Africa with the Axum Empire. There was also the Kingdom of Ghana in West Africa. It dominated in West Africa from 750 BC to 1070 AD. And they had large armies, they collected taxes, and they pretty much had a monopoly on gold mines. At that point in Africa, it was one of the richest gold mines on earth, and the king commanded about 200,000 warriors and 40,000 archers. So that's a lot of people, Josh. That's a lot of people. Have anything to say about that? Big old Ghana kingdom? Nothing? What are you going to say?
Nothing.
Just nothing?
I'm listening to the facts before I voice my opinion on.
The next empire was the Songhi Empire. It was the largest and most powerful of the West African states. It initially broke up another empire that I'll get to later, and there's a reason I'm going to get to the empire later, and it covered 1.4 million square miles. That's pretty large. There's the Ethiopian Empire. It existed until as late as 1975. It successfully fought off the Italians, the Arabs, the Turkish armies, and it also allied with the Portuguese to fight off the Arabs and the Turks. So it was just fighting off everybody making alliances because, it was there until 1975. Then there was the Benin Empire. It was a powerful city-state. It was a major power in West Africa until the late 1800s. And it's even, in its power, the king was called the Oba. And I even remember this because, I went back to Nigeria, and there's a lot of times there was someone called the Oba of somewhere. Basically what he did, when the British settlers came in and all that, he was actually directing them, like, where places to go, people to get, and to the point where the British wanted to say, hey, I want more land, he said, the fuck you will, and started killing British, settlers and things like that. But I think, actually, the most interesting empire would be the Mali Empire. Now, it rose, the Mali Empire saw its peak in the 1350s, and it was known for its renowned wealth, especially from its rulers. And its most famous ruler was Mansa Musa. Now, this guy was truly a badass. This guy was rumored to be the richest man, not in Africa, but in history. Do you know what his net worth at the time was, Joshua? Can you even ponder to guess?
Don't ask stupid questions.
Joshua, it's not a stupid question.
It's a stupid question.
Why would it be a stupid question?
Well, do you know what is fucking... No, I don't know what the guy from fucking 1800, how much he was worth. It wasn't
be the 1800.
It doesn't fucking matter what time it was. I don't know how much he was fucking worth. Why would you ask a stupid question?
He was worth $400 billion. It's a lot of money. He was worth that. During his rule, his empire became larger than Europe. And there was one time that he wanted to go on a pilgrimage all the way across Africa to Mecca, right? So if he'd be going along, he'd have a huge caravan with camels and servants and just normal people to the point where he stopped in Egypt. He stopped in Cairo, Egypt. And he was giving away money to the poor. He was giving away money to everyone. This guy gave away so much money, he caused inflation for years in Egypt. There was so much money rolling around that the Egyptians had to be like, dude, stop giving away so much money because you're ruining our economy. Giving away a lot of money, doing a lot of things. On his way, he built schools, he built roads, he built mosques that are still standing till today. And he built up Timbuktu. At the time, it was a cultural and financial center for all of even Europe and Africa at that time. All right? So this is what I'm thinking with my what-if scenario. All right? Let's say this Mansa Musa guy, right? He's traveling across Africa. He's giving away money. He's going to Mecca, right? And let's say he had a hair up his ass saying, you know what? I want to build my empire even more. Let's say he built ships and went all the way to Europe. And remember, at this time, during the Dark Ages, Europe is fucked. Europe is like, they don't want to think about anything. They're trying to get over the plague and things like that. What if he were to go across into Europe and it was expand his empire there, right? And from expanding his empire there, and usually when you expand empires, what usually happens when you expand empires, and you know a lot about this, Joshua. Yeah, not expanding empires, but usually when people expand empires, what usually happens? Joshua.
I don't like the questions.
What do you mean like the question?
Just go into it.
We're going into it right now. Expanding of an empire, usually when you go and expand into an empire, you usually assimilate the culture, you kick out what you don't like, and you take what you do like. And a lot of the things in the European culture at that time, he could have used the technologies to expand his empire even more. With the shipbuilding, with the weaponry making, and things like that. To the point where it could have been, instead of England or Spain at the time, going around across the world, going to the North Americas, and going to, the India and stuff like that, he himself could have adapted those technologies and maybe gone across the Atlantic Ocean and gone to the Americas and things like that. And he could have had an actual world empire if he wanted to. I don't agree with that. At the time, he could have at least halted the expansion of Europe into Africa. Actually, if they were to see the manpower and the wealth of someone in Africa like that, they would have thought twice before actually coming to Africa and having the whole mad dash for Africa. You know, the African borders look all straight and shit because they cut them out. What are your thoughts on it, Josh? Since you don't agree with it, white devil.
See, that's why I don't agree with it, because I don't think that the expansion would have been successful because of the technology advances that Europe had. So sure, they had the plague, but they also had guns.
In the Dark Ages?
In the Dark Ages,
Because remember, this is before the Renaissance. This is before like the 1400s and 1300s. Because remember, his peak was at 1350. So this is before the 1400s, before Christopher Columbus went over, before they were getting all this other stuff. Europe was still,
if not guns, they still had crossbows. Either way, that's going to go through those hide shields.
He had 40,000 archers, and he had the manpower.
That still doesn't stop the fact that there's a technology discrepancy.
Okay.
Manpower only gets you so far before the guy with the armor that deflects an arrow, the guy with a shield that blocks an arrow, your archers don't mean shit.
Okay. So you would say with their crossbows...
With the higher level of advancement, I would say there's no way that they could have taken over Europe. I'll agree that if they had pushed and shown this level of manpower and competency, that Africa would have not so readily gone into... Europe would not so readily gone into Africa because, oh shit, that's a big fight, and maybe we don't want to deal with that fight. But the other way around, I don't think would have happened. Because, like you mentioned, a whole lot of stuff that they could have taken from the culture if they had done it, and a lot of that stuff is pretty important, like the sailing, you said weapon making, medicines. A lot of that shit is pretty important for an invading army to have. And so the defending army that has these things, the invading army not to have them, I think that's too big of a hill to climb.
Maybe not. But at least, let's say.
But I would agree with that if they had, like you said, kind of posted up on the, kind of new, that top part of Africa that kind of is in between.
Northern Africa, yes. Yeah. Closer to Italy, like Morocco,
kind of posted up,
yeah.
Had forts, and just showed a manpower that Europe would have been like, let's not deal with that right now. And wouldn't have come in. But you got to understand that it's Europe's bleeding into other cultures is what made Europe have the power that it had.
Yes.
Because it was able to take from the other cultures. By having Africa being isolated at this time, they wouldn't have had that advantage.
Now, I will say at this time that probably to the point it wouldn't have happened because, along with China, there's a reason why China didn't go across, conquer the place, because they were fine where they are. Like, they had everything they needed there. I would say the same thing would probably have happened in Africa. They had everything they needed there, so you go, let's be real. At the time, Europe sucked. It's cold, it's rainy, you can't grow a lot of things, so they had to go other places to find stuff. They really did. Like, this is one of the...
Not all of Europe.
Not all of Europe, but like the main
Europe is this whole...
I apologize. The main driving force in Europe, would you say, would be the English. And a lot of stuff in England. You haven't been to England, but we've heard about England and...
I wouldn't say they're the main driving force, because you got to look at back then.
England, Spain.
What Rome was doing. That's not English driven at all. Rome was crazy about expansion.
But this is the era I'm talking about right now in Africa was post Roman Empire. It was after the Roman Empire, beginning of the... So it would be like the 900 AD kind of thing, going into the new millennium type of thing. So Rome's already down in its decline. This is pretty much where you start to have the Crusades. They're fighting over the Holy Land and all that other stuff kind of thing. So you probably see the decline of Rome. Maybe just a what if you will. The other empires saw what Rome did wrong. Basically what Rome did wrong is they just got lazy. So what if they realized, okay, we can't get lazy like this, and maybe they took some lessons from Europe with the I don't know if Genghis Khan was at this point, but Kublai Khan and the rest of them, they travel across, they have the Silk Road and things like that. They could have maybe used some of these tactics, learned some of those lessons from there, and, not made the same mistakes Rome did. Not to mention, like, just remember Rome, like, it's still like the Roman Empire. It wasn't actually Italy, because Italy has a lot of these, like, city, nation, kingdom kind of things, and Italy didn't become Italy till, like, the 1800s or something like that, or 1700. Anyway, so yeah. So
you're gonna piss off all the Italians.
They know they did. They know they did.
Well, I'm just saying, like, misrepresent. When did Italy become Italy?
I don't know when Italy became Italy. That's not what I did research on, as you can see.
Oh Lord,
Joshua.
Snafu.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's what I feel. Basically, the overall arcing theme, my what if scenario is, how would 2016 today be different if there wasn't the slave trade, that they got all their merchandise from Africa. If it wasn't Africa to the West Indies, to the West Indies to the Americas, to the Americas to England, the whole slave triangle. If actually they said, whoa, let me not go into Africa because of this Mutsamasa guy and see how powerful he is. What would have happened? Would Europe still have gone to the Americas? Would that still have happened? If they did, would have been a less slavery of the African continent, more slavery of the South African continent, maybe? What do you think would have happened?
I definitely think Europe would have expanded, because that's what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Europe was big into that expansion. That was kind of the game. So they definitely would have expanded into America anyway. I mean, hell, the Vikings found that.
True.
So
the Vikings went back.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though.
They're like, oh, this is nice. Let's go back home.
the Vikings found it with half the technology that Columbus had. So they would have found it. They would have expanded and laid claim. I don't know if the slave thing would have... I'm trying to think, because it's like the slave trade didn't really come out until America was getting more established.
The slave trade pretty much happened when I believe when they basically when Columbus went over there, saw the West Indies, he came back, said, hey, there's a lot of cool stuff over there, and then along with Spain and England, because remember England had to go over there, they saw the tobacco and all the things they could grow. Like, we could grow these. How do we grow these? And they probably at that time, at the same time they're going over to Europe, they're probably going to Africa as well, and they probably put two and two together and said, hey, free labor, when it wasn't really free.
Well, no, because when the America was getting colonized, that was the Puritan, or was it the Puritan?
That was before. Like when the Puritans came over, like Roanoke and all that?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
That was like
they didn't have slaves. They were getting established. They were doing it themselves.
And also we have to remember, which I just thought of it right now, that one of the main reasons why the Puritans came over was religious freedom.
Yeah.
It wasn't because like we wanted, it was just like England's being a dick King Henry with his whole, like, he's a Catholic, he's not a Catholic, he's an Anglican, he's not. We're just going to do our own thing. And came over.
And they came over, and, like, by themselves.
Yeah.
They weren't. It wasn't
giving
like
Indians blankets and,
It's not like they were scheming, like, well, yeah, now let's go get the free labor. They were doing it themselves.
That was the second wave.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. The slave trade didn't happen until after America started to get established. Then it became a thing because of big business.
Sure, like everything usually does. Like,
so that's what I mean.
Why can't we just have nice things, Josh? Why can't we just have nice things?
I don't know.
It's money.
Yeah.
Money's fun, isn't it?
It's fun if you have it.
True, very true. It's money is fun if you have it. But so you're saying that would they still?
I'm thinking if there's no, like, when they first colonize, if they don't have any Africa to go and get slave labor. Well, first they colonized and they were doing good on their own. It's only until they needed the extra labor for the big business and the growing and all that kind of stuff that they started doing the slave trade. And with no Africa there to do the slave trade, part of me thinks they would either A, have not been so quick to kill all the Indians, or B, would have just done it themselves. And there would have been a bigger discrepancy between rich and poor.
There would have been a huger wage gap type of thing? Mm-hmm. That's true. Well, there's already indentured servants.
And there was already, like, a huge wage gap. I mean, part of the reason why the South was so keen on slaves is because they didn't have the money to begin with, and they needed the free labor, as opposed to the North having the factories. They didn't need manual labor so much because they were having the industrial. The South was still, no tractors and the pools and all that.
They had their mint juleps and porches. That's
that's the rich South. The poor South didn't have that kind of shit. That's why I think that the wage gap would then, if they did it themselves, would have been there would be the really, really rich and then the really, really poor, as opposed to the kind of rich, medium, and then slaves.
So there'd be no middle class if there were no slaves.
Yeah.
So the middle class would be the poor.
And then the rich would be the rich.
Would you think it would have, then would you think the whole big American experiment would have worked? Because with such a huge gap, would there be, at that point, maybe white slavery? I mean, white indentured servitude was already just a notch above white slavery.
You say white slavery like that's not something that
happens. I know.
White slavery? I've never heard of such thing.
I know that happens. Honestly, it still kind of happens today. But it's just one of those where, do you feel that would have been sustainable? Because kind of like, because if you really think about it, slavery was kind of a buffer, like, well, at least I'm not them type of thing, and they didn't have a
But see, that's just a buffer culturally.
Yes.
It's not
I'm also thinking economically too.
With the resources that America had at the time, you got to think of all that oil.
They didn't discover oil until like the 1900s, man.
I'm just saying, though, act like the whole...
They're still using whale oil.
Act like the whole Louisiana Purchase is not just a giant, fertile farmland.
The whole Louisiana Purchase was a big ha-ha to France.
I'm just saying, though, that it's all farmland, though.
Yes.
It's an extremely fertile farmland.
No, it is. It was like 2 cents an acre at that point. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. The country would be able to sustain itself.
But the thing is, the whole Louisiana Purchase...
It just would have an entirely different culture.
A lot of the states with the Louisiana Purchase, like, maybe you could have the 3/5 with Missouri and all. Like, Louisiana Purchase went from, like, Louisiana to, like, Montana or something like that, right? And, like, half of Louisiana Purchase, they didn't really have, like, slaves kind of thing.
Even though, that's what I mean, though. You said, like, would America still have happened? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm saying yeah. Because America still has the resources... the natural resources to sustain itself.
Okay.
It's the only thing that would change if we didn't have the slavery would be the culture of America.
How do you think it would change?
Well, you gotta
no rock and roll? Yeah, I said it. No rock and roll. You'd have your violins and I don't know what you white folks do. What do you white folks do, Josh?
Well, see, that's just it. What is it? If rock and roll was born out of the blues, And the blues was born out of the
spirituals or whatever.
And if that was born out of the
old African songs.
Well, no, if that was born out of the poverty, and the turmoil and everything like that, it would just be born from the poor people.
So it would be like white blues.
Well, what I'm saying is like.
No, I see what you're saying.
There's this cultural divide that you're perpetuating with this whole, white blues, black blues, all this kind of shit. I'm saying it's a poor thing. Okay. Blues was a poor thing.
Okay.
It wasn't a white and black thing.
But it seemed like a large amount of the poor was black.
Black, exactly. Yeah, okay. So that's what I'm saying. If in this culture that there are no slaves, so there are no poor black, and it's poor white, it would still be born of.
And also, technically, I think I'm saying there's no black slaves.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it still would be. I think blues and rock and roll would still exist. It would just be a different poor that it came from. You know what I mean?
How do you think the Caribbean would be? Because like Haiti and Dominican Republic and Puerto, pretty much slave trade's over. What do we do with all these black people? Fuck them, and they just stayed there and did their own thing. So. Because
I guess it would be more of who colonized it then?
Like Spain, they're all speaking Spanish. I think. Did Spain still do it? Because because the main thing, because a lot of people, I don't know if a lot of people don't know. I'm not a historian. I'm just spitballing here. But a lot of the time, until Spain got to the whole colonizing thing later, after England, because they were fighting off the Moors. They were fighting off a Muslim invasion, all of Spain. Then the two kingdoms had to combine, and they had Castile, They got into the whole colonizing thing late. So if, Mansa Musa came to Africa and said, hey man, you just can't come to our continent and do whatever, and they're like, okay, would Spain still be on that same track? I guess they would still be there, but maybe go later, and a lot later.
And see, that's just it. I think a lot of it still happens, it just gets pushed back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of what we're at now
the question
happens. It just happens.
Happens a lot later. So would you say in 2016 we'd be in the 1960s kind of thing, or just culturally or technologically? Because I
don't think it would affect technology, just because we were getting all of our tech from everywhere else.
Yeah, true.
So I don't think it would hurt us technology, but culturally, yeah.
I don't know. It would be
like I said, I
agree with what you're saying.
A point where I think the wage gap would be way different, and I think there wouldn't be as prevalent of a middle class, especially with how kind of America is looked at now, where it's all middle class, then the 1% rich people,
1%,
and then the poor people, But it's all middle upper
and that's
class.
Honestly, the middle class is what makes you into a superpower. That's why China right now is starting to become a super, because they have a middle class. They have a group of people that have discretionary income that can spend on consumer stuff, kind of thing. So I guess you would still have the middle class.
I just don't think it would be as big.
The middle class wouldn't be as big, or the 1% would be smaller, or would it be larger? Maybe.
I don't know. That's tough. I'd almost say the 1% would be probably about the same.
About the same? They get their labor still from the middle class?
Exactly. They'd still, the people who were would have the labor would get the labor. They'd
get the labor.
It would just be, just one way or another.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be about the same. I just think it's the middle class that would take the hit.
Yeah.
It'd be a smaller middle class and a larger poorer class.
I see.
Or lower class.
So even with that, would you think, because a lot of people say, especially when I remember in history, that America became a superpower after the Spanish War in 1898, when they did their thing, and America's on the stage kind of thing like now. Do you think the U.S. would have been a superpower later? Because remember we said the timeline was pushed back. So do you think the U.S. would have been a superpower later? Would that have affected them getting into World War I and World War II? Would they still be trying to struggle with themselves? Because, we didn't, would they... Maybe they still would have had a civil war, because everyone says the Civil War was about slavery. That was one of the parts of it. It was a rich and poor North and South kind of gap. Slavery was just a piece of the puzzle.
Cry.
Exactly, slavery was the battle cry type.
It was definitely a rich versus poor.
It was a rich versus poor thing. The Civil War was. So it just stuff like that just makes you think how would it go? honestly, one of the major reasons the North won is because when Lincoln came out and said, no more slaves, come fight for us, the South was like, well, shit. Now that they don't have that, assuming, let's just make the assumption now, there are no black slaves. The South found their labor somehow without having slaves, and there was no way to break the back of the South. Would the South win the Civil War? I mean, they did have the resources, like you said. They did have the resources.
They had the natural resources, but not the money. During the Civil War, the North was buying up all the guns.
True, and they did have the expertise too.
The North didn't have the expertise. The South had the expertise because they were still hunting. Like the North again was all factories and shit. Yeah. The South was like hunting, so they used that, and the South had also worked with the Indians, so we were doing guerrilla warfare and fighting dirty. But they didn't have any guns. They didn't have any cold weather gear. They didn't have a lot of stuff. A lot of the guys in the South just died from exposure because they didn't have food and basic things because they couldn't afford it.
Wow.
Like the South Army just was poor as fuck.
That'll teach them. No, but it's just...
Way to pick a fight with no money.
Maybe you get yourself a job, you hear me? Like, whoa. Yeah. But it's just stuff like that you think about, and, just something real interesting. But, we're at 30 minutes right now. Josh, I know you're... that's our scenario for the week, and look, the conversation we delved into and how it would affect it. And that's just America. It would have affected Europe. It would have affected Africa.
Oh, yeah.
Would we have a Wakanda? Because that would be badass if we would have had a Wakanda. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows?
And see, I don't think we'd have a Wakanda. Because in Marvel, Wakanda is like super high advanced technology.
Yeah, but I also think it's because an alien meteorite landed there and gave them the knowledge.
I would just say that if Africa was secluded... They wouldn't have been able to learn anything from the other things and taken stuff like gunpowder and medicines and stuff like that.
I think, so you don't think that maybe they could have, like Marco Polo. How he went to China and they said, hey, look at all the cool, crazy stuff I learned. You don't think anyone in Africa would have been like, hey, I went to China, or hey, I went to Europe, and I went to these places, look at all this crazy, cool stuff I learned.
In the scenario, Africa's kind of secluded and doing its own thing.
It could be, but I also...
If they're doing their own thing, like I said, then they wouldn't.
With me, with the scenario, I'm thinking more of they're not just decimated by Europe in carving up the Europe, taking all the people for slavery. I guess that's what I wanted to do. If they're autonomous, right? They're autonomous means they do what they want to do. Would you, overall human curiosity would have been like, what's over there? They would have gone over there, or maybe... Europe still would have come to Africa, but they would have been like, hey, I have these things. Africans would have been like, oh, you have some pretty weird things. Let me go to your land and see what it is and come back to mine type of thing. I mean, I don't believe they would have been completely secluded because China wasn't completely secluded. They just didn't go out and do stuff. They still got, some of the technology and things like that. So I think maybe Africa still could have been the same way.
But see, I think China wasn't completely secluded because of European expansion into China.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
If Europe never expanded into Africa, it never sparked that idea of exploring, they might have just stayed secluded. Okay. They might have seen the ocean and said, fuck that, I ain't crossing that.
A lot of the parts of Africa, they were like that. They saw the ocean like, I got my food here, I got my family, why do I need to go anywhere else? Which makes sense.
Water on that. The hell with all that noise.
Yeah, that's true.
And then none of the technologies would have gotten shared, no ideas would have gotten shared, nobody would have grown.
That's what the stunting of technology type
exactly.
Huh.
That would have just fucked everything up.
Or made things, we don't know.
That's true.
Maybe technology is killing us, bringing us farther apart, Joshua. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, we think we're getting closer, but we're actually
isolating ourselves on the YouTubes and the Book of Face and the Twits. And the Twitters, honestly, it should be called Twits, because there's a lot of Twits on it.
You are on all of those things.
I got to, man, because I'm plugged in. Speaking of plugged in, have you seen the Ghost in the Shell trailer?
Yeah.
Okay. What are your thoughts on it?
They couldn't find one Asian actress. Not one. I mean, the character's name is, isn't it,
Makato or something like that?
Motoko Kusanagi?
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, come on now.
And
if they're gonna make a full-on live-action remake of the first Ghost in the Shell movie, you couldn't find one Asian actress.
Here's the thing on that, Joshua. You are right. I totally agree with you. But like I said, this is Ugo putting his cap on. I need to sell this movie to America. And if I put, like, the chick from Pacific Rim, people are saying, like, oh, I'll get the chick from Pacific Rim. She totally could have played it. If you ask 9 out of 10 people in the U.S., who's the chick from Pacific Rim? They're like, who? Yeah. But you put Charlotte Johansson, oh, it's Black Widow, doing Black Widow things. Yeah. And that's why she's there. Now,
if you're going to use Black Widow and Scarlett Johansson, and you're going to remake the entire original first movie, I say they should have the balls and have her be naked half that fucking time.
Joshua, I'm with you, because I've been seeing stuff on the internet, I've been seeing the movies, there's just nipples galore everywhere.
It's not nipples, she's got, the bodysuit's not even see-through.
No, I'm talking about the anime one.
Oh, yeah.
The anime one. She's naked as fuck.
She's naked all the
She's naked as fuck. Here's the thing.
In that movie, like, I love how in the show, like, had progressed from the movie, but in the movie, how the cloak suit was like a poncho.
Pretty much,
it was just invisible, and you had to be naked underneath it. You know damn well that's the anime one.
That's just anime. That's just anime in general. They just
throw in some titties for no fucking reason.
There's some things in anime, they will stop a scene just dead on a dime, stop it just to say, titty, sex joke, bloody nose. Like, oh, come on, can we get back to the story? Like, no. Yeah. But the thing about the Ghost in the Shell is, alright, we have to have Scarlett Johansson, she's a name, fine. The thing that got me was, can we at least get other Asian actors in there? Yeah. Even, they had Bato. It's a white dude. It's like an Irish white dude.
Yeah. I'm trying to think though, Bato, what? He was Japanese.
They were all Japanese, except like that one dude had the mullet.
No, right? I didn't think Saito was either.
Because like the head dude, the old guy, he was Japanese.
He was old. He was definitely Japanese.
Mage was Japanese. I think Bato was Japanese. There was this one white dude. This one white dude with a mullet. I think he was white.
Bato always confused me just because he said he was a ranger. I thought the Rangers was pretty American.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up.
But still, it's just one of those like.
But I do agree with you. It's funny that one didn't get all the hate that Matt Damon's did with the Great Wall, and then whitewashing the Great Wall. When the storyline of the Great Wall is he's a mercenary from
Europe coming to find
some people are like, fuck you, white people in Asia.
People with the Great Wall should shut the fuck up. Because I saw a trailer for the one. Okay, let me educate you people on the Great Wall, alright? First of all, this is how the Great Wall was made. The Great Wall was all like, in China, there is a quota for how many foreign movies can be shown in China, right? So, the American studios have to get creative and say, alright, how the fuck are we going to get this movie shown in China? We got to get our movie shown in China, but alright, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have a Chinese movie, but we're going to have a headliner. It's going to be Matt Damon. I saw the trailer for that. He's literally a dude. He's a badass archer. Okay, fine. And then he brings the dude from Narcos, his sidekick, whatever. Everyone else in there is Asian. It's an Asian director. It's an Asian cinematographer. There's Asian. You know what I love to do when I watch trailers? I love to watch like the production companies. And you know what one of the production companies on this thing is? H Brothers. They're a huge investment Chinese firm because China has money and they can't spend it in China, so what are they doing? They're buying the shit out of like American productions and stuff like that. In the years beyond, half the movies you're going to see, although they're American movies, are probably paid for halfway by Chinese companies. It just is. These last 2 Mission Impossible movies, they were Chinese movies. You know why we have Transformer movies? Do you know why? Because the Chinese love robots for some godforsaken reason.
Well, godforsaken. Who doesn't want robots?
I don't want Transformers step and fetch bots.
I want them. Well, the racist bots, yeah, no one wants racist bots. But you can't honestly say if your truck didn't transform right now, you wouldn't lose your fucking mind and have like the best day of your life.
But I wouldn't have 3.5 hours of a car crash. Those are Transformers movies. But I will say, with the good comes the bad, because although you have more Transformers movies, you also have another Pacific Rim movie because of China.
Because of what?
Because of China.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Pacific Rim. So, yeah. So, you get your good, you get your bad. But, so I understand this, but just like with Doctor Strange, with the Ancient One. I don't know about you, but looking at the comics, that Ancient One looked pretty Asian racist. It looks pretty Asian stereotype.
Well, we can get Fin Fan Foomin.
Who's that?
You don't know? Oh, boy. You want to talk about Asian racists?
Who's that?
That's a villain, Fin Fan Foomin.
From where?
He popped up in a couple different comics, but yeah.
It just sounds horribly racist.
Oh yeah. That's back in like I would assume, I don't know when he first appeared, but I would assume 40s, 50s. We didn't like Japan and Korea, so we were doing the real stereotype with the buck teeth and everything.
Yeah, that's pretty unfortunate. but yeah, so like the thing with the ancient one, so they bring in Tilda Swinton. I've heard all great things about it. I haven't seen the movie yet. I'm probably going to see it this weekend. But, it's all good. So, but that's pretty much our show right now.
We got way off track.
We did get way off track, but that's what the beauty of the shows. So that's our show right now. Josh, even though you're off the grid because you're just a hermit, is there any way that people can reach you, Joshua?
If you know my phone number.
Okay, so Josh's phone number is 8. No, I'm just kidding. Josh, do you even know my phone number?
No.
Exactly. No, you know like maybe 2 phone numbers in your life. You don't know any other phone numbers. But if you guys have any suggestions on any what if scenarios we can do, you can reach us in very many ways. We're on SoundCloud if you look up The What If Cast. And also you can email us any comments, questions, concerns, your what if scenarios. Email us at thewhatifcast@gmail.com. We're on the Twitter. Even though we bash Twitter, Twitter's a great thing. You get instantaneous news.
I wouldn't go that far.
You can get us at Twitter at @the_whatifcast, and we're also on Facebook. If you just go to Facebook and you search The What If Podcast, we will be there. All right? So, it's me, Ugo. This is Joshua. And we're signing off right now. Thanks for joining in, and we'll see you guys next time.